Hi, everybody. Welcome to Parlour Tea.
This hair again.
Oh, the hair.
Hi, don't you love this?
I do. This is product placement.
I had to wear it. It's product placement, everyone.
Parlour product placement.
It's on a magnet, so it won't destroy your, what do you call it, but you can't really see.
Oh,
but it's
you gotta
nice.
it is.
It's nice. Let me just take it off.
Let's get Sarah on. Oh, geez, he's got to show it.
Beautiful.
Available here pen. At the Parlour.
There you go. So yes, we're on our road trip. So I hope you have your bags packed and your snacks. Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
And we are all ready. We're just going to pick up our friend Sarah.
Yes, let's go get Sarah.
We're getting Sarah.
John's driving.
Oh, yeah, then we're all in trouble.
Hi, Sarah.
Hi.
Hey. How are you?
We're good.
Excellent.
So, we're very excited, and I know how you are excited as well.
Yes, indeed. We're talking about a big one today.
We're talking about a big one, which I was talking to Genevieve and you before. I definitely feel that this is something that might be a two-parter.
Hi, Rachel.
It might be.
You could do a week-long series on this one.
Oh, I'm sure you could. I'm totally sure you could.
So we're talking Lizzie Borden tonight.
Yes.
Ta-da! Lizzie Borden.
And it is an unsolved mystery that has
controversy
and a controversy at the same time that
can
be very heated. But
it's appropriate.
100%. And I actually feel that it is one of those unsolved mysteries that, I hope when we pass on that we find out who really did do it, because that's on my list.
Lizzie is on your list?
My Lizzie, Chappaquiddick, Alien,
Jack the Ripper. Yeah.
All the unsolved.
After that,
it's like you just walk down a corridor and you get all of the unsolved mysteries.
And you're like,
yeah.
Thank you. I've just.
But does the unsolved mysteries theme play while that's going on?
It can, depending on.
It should.
Maybe it should.
It should.
Maybe.
Yes, aliens.
So play online.
Madonna would play. John will be voguing down the hallway. Finding out all the answers. Hi, Mom.
Aliens. Yep, Rachel and I love aliens.
All right, so we have a lot to get into. So
we do.
Bounce it over to Sarah. Yeah. She's going to give us the context of the Lizzie Borden.
So I probably shouldn't have to say too much about why we know the name Lizzie Borden. That name has just become synonymous with true crime, famous murders, unsolved mysteries. There's little jaunty songs written about this. Lizzie Borden took an axe, etc., etc. We do know mostly, if you know nothing else about Lizzie Borden, you know that this is a very notorious murder that took place where this woman is suspected of killing her mother and father with an axe. There you go. If you know nothing else about Lizzie, most people at least know that about Lizzie. So the Lizzie Borden House was located at 92 2nd Street in Fall River, Massachusetts. Living in the house was Lizzie, her older sister Emma, her father Andrew, and her stepmother Abby, and an Irish servant that lived with them named Bridget Sullivan. And there was a lot of conversation about the atmosphere in this house. There was a great deal of tension in the Borden family. Andrew Borden was extremely wealthy. He was into real estate. He started his career actually as an undertaker, building caskets and whatnot, but he built this financial empire. And at the time of the very famous murder, it's estimated in today's money, his worth was approximately $6 million. So this was a very wealthy family, but they didn't live in that way. This house in Fall River, Massachusetts was a normal, everyday house, and that's one of the many things that we believe that Lizzie had a big issue with, was why are we living here when we should be living in this area referred to as the Hill, where all of the much more wealthy people lived. That was far from the only tension in this family. Lizzie and her father, there's very differing accounts as to how they interacted with each other, how they felt about each other. We do know with more certainty that Lizzie and her stepmother did not get along. Shortly after, her father and stepmother married, she stopped referring to her as her mother. She only referred to her as Mrs. Borden. It was a very, very tense relationship. Emma and Lizzie also had a very, very tense relationship with their father because of a real estate issue. The father, as I said, was very, very involved in real estate, and the two sisters felt that they were getting short end of the stick. There were situations where their father was handing off real estate property to members of Abby's family. They were not okay with this. We do know that there were times where both Lizzie and Emma left the house because of arguments and issues that were going on within the house. The last time that they left, they had only come back to the house a couple days before this infamous murder took place. There were also instances in the house of illness that had come in that affected the entire family, that some people do wonder if it was something that had to do with poison, whether it was from Lizzie or Emma, or from an outside source, somebody who wasn't very happy with the Borden family and Andrew's financial dealings. Then we go to the infamous night that it all happened. Morning, I should say. August 4th, 1892. The family, Emma, was away. She was visiting family away from the Borden family house. Abby was at home. Andrew was at home. Lizzie was at home. Bridget was at home. And they were also having a guest staying in the house. At breakfast, some of them did not take part in breakfast. They were still feeling somewhat ill. Guest left the house. Andrew left the house to go run errands. Abby went upstairs to go take care of some things. So at this point in time, there was only Lizzie, Bridget, and Abby in the home. At that point, at some point in the morning, Andrew comes back, and very, very shortly, within the time span that he comes back, he took a nap in the sitting room, and then the next thing we know, Lizzie is calling up to their servant saying that someone has killed their father. Call someone. At this point, Abby has already been murdered. She is upstairs in an upstairs bedroom. Both Abby and Andrew were bludgeoned to death with an axe. They were completely mutilated. Their faces, very, very horrific scene. The photos, they are on the internet. They're everywhere. They are one of the most famous crime scene photos, is that of the Borden house. What happened after that was as much as you could have at the time, a media frenzy. We have this family horrifically murdered, and all eyes kind of turned to Lizzie. There were very few people in the house. They knew that there was this tense relationship between her and her parents. There was this controversy of, were the Bordens poisoned only a couple days beforehand, something that they were still recovering from. There were accounts that Lizzie herself had tried to purchase poison a couple days before the murders. And then a couple days after the murders, a neighbor of theirs had come in, and she was staying at the house for a couple days. And this neighbor reported that Lizzie was found trying to burn a dress. When she asked why she was burning the dress, she said she had gotten paint all over it, and she had to get rid of it. Again, as we had mentioned, this is a extremely in-depth story, and it's a very, very historic story, not only because of the horrific murder itself, but this also became a very, very, it's a huge story in terms of legal history. This whole case and how Lizzie was portrayed, and most importantly, how Lizzie got away. Lizzie Borden did not serve prison time for this, outside of a holding period. She was able to live out the rest of her life with her sister Emma after this trial took place. They did not stay in the Borden home. They moved to a house they referred to as Maplecroft, which was in the much fancier, wealthier part of town that Lizzie had wanted to live in the entire time that she felt she was trapped in this house on 2nd Street. So there we have a very condensed, nutshell version of the Lizzie Borden house. Horrible crime, unsolved murder, questions over a century later. it is no surprise of why this is considered, like so many other places, one of the most haunted places in America. It is currently a bed and breakfast. So you can go to the Lizzie Borden house. You can stay there. You can stay in the room where Abby Borden was murdered. You can sit in the same spot that Andrew Borden was murdered. So when you have a place like this that is part of this horrific crime, and you have people that are able to go in and out of it in such a regular, frequent basis, you're going to have stories. You're going to have people saying that they've had experiences. You're going to have people saying they felt things, or they saw something out of the corner of the eye. All the classic things that you hear from these haunted locations. But the Lizzie Borden house has a tremendous amount of them. If you do go to the Lizzie Borden house, the website, they do have a section of evidence, and there are photos where people see images of faces in the glass in the background. There's a section of EVPs that have been recorded in the Lizzie Borden house. There are accounts of people seeing things go past them in rooms. There was one particular account where someone was staying there. They left the room that they were sleeping in, and they came back to find a baby doll face down in the same position that Abby Borden was found on their bed. So this is a very active location and a place that has hundreds of people experiencing things there every year. I personally have never been to the Lizzie Borden house, so I can't speak from experience, but these accounts from the Lizzie Borden house, they have almost as much controversy as the murder and the crime itself, because there's the big question of who is in the house. Who are interacting with the visitors at this house? Why are they interacting with the visitors at this house? It runs the spectrum as to who has experienced what. But like I said, I have never been there. What do you guys think about this? Who do you feel is in the Lizzie Borden house?
So I've never been there, so I can't speak for that part.
I have.
John has. But one of the things I think that, just real quick before I bounce it to John, one of the things I think is with locations that are this infamous and this charged, there's so much emotional energy there. I think that sort of feeds into whether or not there is an actual haunting. That kind of brings that residual, that extra energy into that space, and that can become its own. That it's its own haunting in a way.
Right.
But John has really cool experiences.
So I was there. It was I was with it was me, two other people, and another couple that stayed in the room that the stepmother was killed. I was in the bedroom with two other people of the parents' room. It is a nice little quaint little place. A gentleman comes in and talks to you about a book that he specifically read. You buy it, he signs it. They give you a whole full tour. You can do your own sort of investigating yourself. But it is my opinion is that I agree with Genevieve. I think that when people set things up for people to think that they're going to go, and like any place, you think you're going to get something because it has
like a hysteria
to. It
factor.
has to. Yeah. I'm going to go and
So,
I'm going to see something and hear something.
So do you feel just how you felt going into the building? Do you feel that if you had walked in and you were blindfolded and you weren't aware of where you were going to be, do you feel like you would have felt that same energy as when you walked in knowing you were going into a crime scene, a very notorious one of the Lizzie Borden house?
I don't. I honestly and truly feel yes. I would have felt that it was. I wouldn't have known, so maybe I would have been more open to really hearing and seeing something, and not already setting it up in my head that everybody sees it. You see all these things and this evidence, and everybody's going. It is a very controversial thing, and but we'll stick to what. So in my I was there. It feels very ominous in place. Like it does feel that there are someone they're watching, like they're
Yeah.
looking. And when you're alone and you're in the room or you're going to look in the room, because you can do that during the day as well, you just feel like someone is just watching
Just
every
there.
bit of it. Like, don't take anything, don't touch nothing, like that kind of a vibe.
And imagine
Does it feel like a tense vibe? Like you read about how this house was just full of animosity and tension, or is it more of just a, hey, what are they doing in my
I
house?
think it might be a hey, what you're doing, but I think some of it plays into part when you think about all of what had happened and that uncertainty. So I do think there is a form of restlessness in it,
Mm,
way, because no one has pointed a finger, or they have, but no one's actually said this is legitimately the one who did it. And I think that's what people go in there feeling, and really wanting that vibe
mm,
to see and hear and feel. And I don't think that, you know,
well,
um,
that's like the classic trope for any ghost story, really. It's
it
that
is.
unfinished, it's that violent and tragic death.
yep.
It's unsolved. There's so much unfinished business. There's so much probably vengeance wanted by whoever was murdered. It's like
Right.
the perfect storm for
Yeah, and I mean these two, Abby and Andrew. Abby, from what I understand, the way that she was found in the bedroom, it is thought that she faced her killer, and
yes.
that when she was struck, she was spun, and that's how she ended up on the floor.
Because,
Andrew, however,
No
was
defense.
asleep. Yes,
right. And
but
because,
Andrew was asleep.
right.
So is he a stronger presence there because he would have more of this state of what happened to me? I laid down for a nap.
Hold that thought. Hold that thought. So there's one other thing. So,
Okay.
of course, I was with my mother, and she went from I'm fine to at night in the and panic, full on panic mode.
Oh
Oh my
no.
God, I can't. I gotta go sleep in the car. I said it's darker outside than it is in here. So I stayed in the room, and I slept in the parents' bedroom by myself.
Did she sleep in the car?
No, she slept in the other room with Anthony. The two of them were in there going. I'm like, shut up. And so I finally moved out because she made me come in there. She goes, don't go out there. And I'm like, so I went, I said, screw this, I'm sleeping in the bed. So the bed is huge. I slept in the bed.
Mm.
And I think it was like between 3 and 3:30. There was a little presence that you felt, and there's a closet on the side if you're laying, and there's the window.
And I'm
then
sorry, what room was this in?
in the parents' bedroom,
Okay.
because there's the parents' bedroom that you could cut through the girls' room, and then there's a down, like you could go down the steps into the kitchen from the parents'
Like the
bedroom.
servants.
And then I forgot to tell everybody that we were playing with the Ouija board earlier that day with other
What did you
people,
expect?
but with other people. And all of a sudden we heard someone walking up on the roof, and then someone like barges through the thing. It was someone working on the roof that scared the crap out of us because we didn't know what was going on. And like, you think you should have said something? But anyway, so so there was a presence there, but I felt it was a boy, it was a child, and I did feel his hand cold on my foot.
Okay.
And I was like, no. I just thought maybe I was sort of sleeping, because it just didn't make any sense, because that story was never communicated. It was a different story, right? So we went downstairs. It's a bed and breakfast. You have certain floors get certain times, and ours is at 7 in the morning. So I had to go downstairs and sit down and eat. But because it's the parents' bedroom, we were the ones that were able to eat first, because that's the way that the hierarchy would have gone. And so we're sitting there, and they're really cute. They have little axes shaped up like.
It's upstairs. It's
Oh,
the people
God.
upstairs.
It was an axe-shaped sugar cookie with trimmed in red icing. And I was like, oh my God, this is so cute. So the lady turns around and goes, so what did you guys experience? Did you experience anything? And I had said to her, told her the story. I said, I don't know. Maybe I was asleep or not. She goes, you would have felt that because there was the land was actually had its well, and one of Lizzie's cousins lived sort of catty corner or behind that they shared that well, and that she had a breakdown and killed her two little children in the well.
Yep,
Now,
I was going to say there a lot of people don't know offhand that there's actually two very, very tragic stories related to this Borden family, and that one that you're speaking of is one that people a lot of times don't hear about as often because of the sensationalism of Lizzie. But as you were saying, you felt this little boy a cold hand.
yeah, I felt him, and the lady goes, "You would," and I was just so right after that, it sort of had a reality. Like I wasn't dreaming this. This happened because I wouldn't have known because of that.
Nobody talks about that.
Yeah, no one talks about it
Yeah.
because everybody's talking about this unsolved mystery, unsolved crime,
Yeah.
this backhand things that went on, and I never thought about the parents, like how
Mm.
I felt bad. What I did feel bad for, and I know this sounds kind of really bad in my behalf, I just felt bad for the alleged gossiping history behind how Lizzie and Emma were being raised and dealt with in that home.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's some stories there too.
There's stories of
Lots of
incest,
abuse.
lesbianism, verbal abuse,
Physical
abuse. And also that could be one of the reasons why you would automatically think that. But people also have to take into account that I've always thought of Mr. Borden as a more modern version of Scrooge. He had extreme dealings with.
Yeah.
He was very
Yeah.
cutthroat. You had to
Yeah.
pay rent. It was on that day. He came. You had it. You didn't. You were out. And
Yes.
I think that's why people in town hated him. There
Yeah.
was no flexibility with him, and I think his mindset was, if I gave flexibility, I would not have the empire that I have.
And he came from almost nothing, right?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. This was a very self-built empire,
Yeah.
which is, I mean, in my opinion, that probably led very heavily into why he was so stringent with his money and so strict. It's this mindset of I have to keep it. I have to keep it. I can't go back to that.
Even with his daughters he would not allow them to marry just anyone. And that was the whole thing, that Lizzie was 32 years old and she was not married because anyone that was beneath them, he didn't want them marrying his daughter because
he felt that they were only with their
for the money.
Yeah.
And anyone that was above that wasn't interested. So
and I it's hard for me not to analyze some of this. I mean, Abby was with him because why? I mean, did she love him? Was she with him for the money?
There was also speculation that she was with him for the money.
Mm-hmm.
She was.
That's part of the reason that it's suspected, at least from what I understand, that's part of the reason Lizzie did not like her. There was a lot of reasons Lizzie and she did not get along, but that was one of them. Was that she felt that she was after her father's money, that in a way she felt was also hers.
Right. Yeah. And I felt, and then the funny part of the whole thing is that if you went through the legalities of things, the stepmother had to pass first before the father did. So someone had to have known that part of it as well. But if they were going to go through things, it would have been Emma. It wasn't Emma's older.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it would depend on what he had written in the will.
Right. But it depended on, but if that's the way that you would do it. Now.
But Lizzie also may have felt if there was a legality that it would go to Emma. Emma was extremely protective of Lizzie. When their mother, on her deathbed, Emma made a promise to their mother to take care of baby Lizzie. Emma was extremely connected to Lizzie. The entire time of the trial, she was right there by her side. They lived together not only in the proper Borden house, but when they moved out after the tragedy, they continued to live together. Until they didn't. Yeah. We'll get into that.
But until they didn't.
But I just, there's all this dealings, and people were probably very upset. So you also have to take that into account, that you have all these other people in town that hated him because of certain reasons. And then you had, from what I read or that people, when he was murdered, there was a rejoice of this because there was this feeling of that dreadfulness of things were gone.
I mean, it does say something that when the family was struck down with this mystery ailment a couple days previous, that Abby did genuinely question, was this poison? Was there someone that somehow poisoned my family? There was a reason that she thought that.
Did it.
But the thing is, because so and this is me, only my opinion for entertainment purposes only. Please like, share, and follow. Anyway,
the opinions represented here are not those of the Parlour.
But think about this: all this is alleged.
Mm-hmm.
There was lesbianism. There was this strictness of things.
That's a very recent allegation, though.
But that's an allegation that I knew of a long time ago.
No, I'm saying anyway, we can get into it.
But so I'm trying to do this as quickly because we don't want to end up doing it. But it's definitely going to be something that is going to be a two-part. It's gotta be.
It could be.
All of this stuff, and then people have to choose. People choose to forget about this one. Like they really just say it's her because she burned her dress. There was a multitude of axes that were there that none of it really fit, right? They were there.
There were several axes in the basement. Yes. One of them, the axe handle had been recently broken. And when they looked at, and I gotta say, I was kind of impressed to read that they were having this level of forensic thinking at the time, that they noticed that two of the axes were covered in a layer of dust that indicated that they had been sitting in that room for a while, not used. They realized that the other one did have dust on it, but it wasn't the same pattern of the dust laying on it. Exactly. Exactly.
Okay, but here we have to throw this in here that Lizzie was very tiny. She was She
was 5'4". She wasn't that tiny.
But she wasn't a very strong looking.
Okay, wait. Okay, we'll discuss that. That's in my notes. Go ahead.
My thing is that, do I feel that she was 100% not a part of it?
Well,
yeah, but I do believe she was a part of it, but I don't think she did it.
So, okay.
Well, but getting back to your visit.
Yes.
What was it about that house that made you feel that way, that there was that definite break or change in energy when you walked through that door? Was it just when you walked in, or was there something that happened?
When you walked in, I think the energy is just so heavy because people stay there all the time. It's nonstop. It's 365 days a year. There's exhausted energy in there. There's this.
I wonder if they cleanse it at all.
I don't think so.
Probably not.
I don't. I think that there's exhausted, and it's like, hey, are you here? Tell me, say something, do something, and it's every day.
And you're talking about going to breakfast, and there's hatchet cookies.
That's one thing I wanted to ask you. I did read that, I don't know if this is current, so I wanted to ask you. I did read that at one point, the owners of the house, at whatever point that this happened, started hanging the crime scene photos and memorabilia and things that pointed to this tragedy that happened in this house. Do you feel that has an effect on whatever spirits are in that building?
I think it's exploitative to an extent.
I think that they knew that this was a money-making machine.
That's what I mean, exploitation.
And I do believe that things were put up. I mean, they had what do you call it?
Yes, Mom, we should.
Yeah, they had one, and look, Law and Order, Fall River.
I put that up before.
They had Elizabeth Montgomery's real dress that she wore in the movie that she portrayed Lizzie. I mean, Lizzie was very fast-paced with the art world. She was very well liked in that realm of people.
And I think that's important to point out too. I think it's very, very, we hear this very common story that Lizzie was like this recluse and she went crazy. Lizzie was very, very well connected. She was very social. She was involved in a lot of different organizations. She taught Sunday school.
She was a leader in a lot of the organizations that she joined, partially because of her personality, but also because she had the money and she had the means.
Right. And she was also a Sunday school teacher.
Yes. So your entire time, you stayed there overnight. Right. Did the energy change at all throughout your stay? Did it change depending on what room you were in? What did you experience as far as that?
But see, and that was my experience. There were other people that were in the attic that their experience, that they had some things. People have to understand, like, not everybody's on. These people are not on because we're there.
Ghosts, yeah.
And we paid, when we ended up going there, the one night was $350 for one night in that one room. This was years ago. At least a good 20 years ago.
Raffaella posted midweek rates around $300.
Yeah. I mean, it is a great experience. I think that it is very, when you first walk in, it's very ominous. It's very like, I think that you go from like, oh my God, I'm actually in a house there was a murders in this home and it is still unsolved that you go through. But then knowing that there was something else made me think, about like, she thought she was better than this place. Like, she knew she was better than this place. She wanted to be some other place. So,
and how was she going to get there?
But
by being free of her parents.
True, but I mean, there also was, we don't really know. I mean, this is all speculation on this stuff. I mean, anybody could say anything. He wasn't a well-liked man. I don't know his relationship with his the wife. She was 37. She was 32. How old was Emma?
She was 37 when they got married. She was 64.
Okay.
64. Mm-hmm. She was 64. I believe Andrew was 70.
Yeah.
So
she wasn't that much younger.
But think about this. You just said that, Emma was told by the mother when she was on her deathbed to take care of little baby Lizzie.
Baby Lizzie.
Was this probably, she probably was treated a little bit differently by the mom. So now you don't have that. The father never gave them the coochie kind of vibe, like holy, that kind of thing.
That's a typical Victorian relationship, right? That, like, you don't.
I am. If we were thinking about how this all goes, I don't feel that Lizzie did it, and I don't feel that maybe there's a residual of Lizzie.
I don't think she's there. We'll see. So I have two of the main questions for you guys. Okay. But before we do that, I just want to before we get into all that, I just want to get my robes on, my judicial robes.
Okay.
Are you getting an axe out?
I didn't have my normal gavel. I have this, which makes either more or less sense, depending if you know me. But so these are the two big questions about the Lizzie Borden House, and I'd love to hear both of your opinions. Number one, is it haunted, and by who?
Yes, it's haunted. I believe it's
Okay.
probably haunted by the people who passed there, and probably the children that also died tragically there.
I agree. I agree. I think that there are people that do haunt this, and I do believe that there are some residuals. And I think that if people pay attention, they could see it or feel it. Or
But I mean, my opinion is a little bit skewed too, because I feel like every place is haunted. So
well, I think that it's haunted, but I think that because if something wasn't, and then you start to ignite that,
yeah,
I think then that's different.
and you've
This
got
was something that was already there, and
yeah.
everybody that traipsed through that place screwed up all that evidence, screwed up all that stuff, and they, it's because Lizzie was always stole. Lizzie always wanted to make someone.
But they did the autopsy on their dining room table.
And the wake and the funeral were in the house. And it
Right.
should be mentioned, the autopsy, if the crime scene wasn't bad enough, when they did the autopsies on both Bordens, they removed their heads.
Their heads, yeah.
And they were used in the courtroom.
Yes.
Lizzie was presented with her parents' skulls.
Yes.
And part of the reason that people thought, well, she had to have done it, was because when she was presented with this, she just kind of was like, yep, there it is. She did not have the typical reaction that one would think when presented with that.
Yeah. I mean, I definitely feel that there is something there, but I don't feel that Lizzie is.
I don't think she's there. I don't think she's haunting the place.
I think she's over there at Maple Grove. I mean,
I agree with you.
I really, really do. She loved that place. That place was her pride and joy.
That was her home. That was the home that she had always wanted.
Correct.
Yeah.
Now, do you feel that the place that the proper Borden home, do you feel it would be haunted by Andrew or Abby?
Yes.
Yes.
I agree.
Absolutely.
I agree.
think sometimes they're vocal. I think sometimes they're not. I think that, like and like I think that there is a connection when someone walks in that some ghost or some spirit feels that there is some form of attachment. They see something, feel something from that person, so it becomes more of an elevation in something because of the presence of a guest.
But I think also that there's probably more that is there too. Because when you've got that door open all the time and you're constantly seeking that could easily bring in other energies.
I mean, also, we hear all the time that it's not always the house, it's the land.
Yeah.
At the time that this happened, Fall River was not the greatest place. Yeah. There was a lot of problems in Fall River. There was a lot of animosity. There was a lot of tension between religious groups, between immigrant groups. This was not the most pleasant. It wasn't like it was a carefree, happy world outside the Borden door. This town also had this very tense.
There's a lot of conflict.
Air.
Yeah, but that was an area. That area was not very safe either.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, it was not.
It was a mill town.
So that also could be taken into account.
Mm-hmm.
Drinking and you never know. but there was always. What about the brother?
What about the brother?
Actually, confirmed to have been an illegitimate son.
There is the talk of the illegitimate Borden son. Yes.
But you think about it and you go, are these people just pulling like things out of the air? Or is it just based off of someone telling someone? Like, there's never like really a fluid, like someone saying, oh yeah, this was the Borden.
Well, they didn't have DNA, and it's all at that point it's just conjecture. Like this woman is saying that he's an illegitimate child of theirs, and how do you confirm that? Yeah, there's a brother, Rachel.
Yeah.
Allegedly. Yep.
Yeah.
So,
hi, Angan.
So just to touch on the part of Lizzie being petite,
right?
She was 5'4". That's not very petite at that time. Also, the thing that we forget is that people were more physically engaged at that point in time. So you don't know if she's hitting that axe, killing chickens, or if she's cutting up stuff. The people are a little bit.
But don't you feel that that Emma was actually protecting Lizzie?
Oh, absolutely.
But then wouldn't Lizzie protect her?
Well, speaking of,
Well, then here we get into the conversation of who did it.
okay. Because the other part of it too, you've got Bridget, who they called Maggie.
Maggie, yep.
Extensively, like
She-
berated.
Well, she recanted on her deathbed. She said that she was covering up for Lizzie. She said that on her deathbed. And there's a variety of inconsistencies in her story, and there's a whole slew of inconsistencies in Lizzie's story.
Yeah, Lizzie's story. Lizzie changed her story by the hour, and that was part of the reason why so many people were like, "Oh, she had to have done it."
I love that Rachel is still stuck on the brother.
Yeah, there's so much in-depth, entwined pieces to this that I think because there's so many rumors and stuff, I actually think that it twists what
always
it's real.
Yeah.
Like, you could go back and forth and say that Lizzie did it and then Lizzie didn't do it because, was Lizzie did she have a split personality? I mean, was there any form of anything? Did they know at that time that she was calculated of a killer to do something like that?
Okay, so wait, I went through and I analyzed. We've got motive. We absolutely have motive. There's the money. There's jealousy.
It's the brother.
Rachel's already confirmed that it's the brother. You've got money. You've got jealousy. You've got this anger toward her stepmother. There was a huge falling out 5 years before this that really switched her animosity up even more.
I mean, there was another falling out where they had just returned to the house a couple days beforehand.
Yes.
So this was ongoing. This wasn't like they just had this big blow up and then, okay, we smoothed it over. This was an ongoing thing in that family.
So you've got all of that. Now you're coupled with the fact that Lizzie doesn't want to live in this space. She's not being given the place that she can live. She's living in a time where women are not really encouraged to go off and live on their own. They kind of need that husband to take them away. She can't have the husband to get her out. She's got all of this confinement. I think that it was just bubbled over and furious rage, and the fact that it was the faces of these people indicated her rage. The fact that it was their heads and their faces was just, she wanted to just erase them from her life. That's my person, and I got a whole bunch of more evidence here.
But how do you feel about the purchasing of the attempt? Because she didn't actually succeed.
That's the other thing. She says that she's buying this essentially cyanide to
clean her furs, a sealskin cloak.
It's summertime. It's summertime.
Well, that also goes back to the time of year, not only with the poison to clean the sealskin. When she handed over the dress that she told authorities she was wearing at the time, she handed over this very heavy blue dress that was more so used for like special occasions. This wasn't a dress that she would have just been walking around the house doing stuff, which also goes against, she had told the authorities that at the time she was in a barn.
Yeah, in the second floor of a barn.
Yeah, but the dress that the neighbor says that she saw Lizzie tearing up and burning was a light cotton blue dress.
Not only that, but I don't know if any of you guys have ever tried to wear some of these dresses. They are incredibly, incredibly constricting. I know you have. So think about wearing that in the heat and to be up in that was one of her alibis, is that she was on the second floor of the barn. The dust was not unsettled in that barn. There were no footprints in that barn. There was no footprint on that. There was no dust on that dress that she handed over. There was blood. They found blood on one of her petticoats that she said she had fleas.
No,
she said she had fleas.
Oh.
That was her reason for it. Which I guess was probably not that uncommon back then, right? But I don't know.
I mean, I don't think anybody's ever really going to figure this whole scenario out at all.
Well, John, who do you think did it?
Who do I?
Yeah.
I do believe that it was Emma.
Okay.
Emma was accounted for somewhere else.
But how do you know that people didn't protect her?
I think she was aboard and no one's protecting them.
But that
Except
they
each
weren't
other.
in that town. They were someplace else. I don't know. I feel that Emma had a part in this, and Lizzie helped clean it up.
Do you think that Emma committed the crimes and Lizzie was helping cover up Emma, or the other way around?
I think that Lizzie was the stronger out of the two, and I think Emma did it, and she, what do you call it?
I think Lizzie had more rage.
But I think that Lizzie had more rage, but I think Emma did it to protect her because of the scenario of it all. But I do feel that Lizzie had more control over her vibe, the way she came across, that she was very stoic. And I think that she defended by everybody thinking it was her because she could handle it. Like her mentality was, I can take this constant berating. This one would have broke.
Well, we have the other part of it too. The part where Lizzie says that her stepmother was given a note to go visit a friend.
Yes.
No one ever found that note. No one had any evidence of that note. Not even sure who the friend really is. Meanwhile, she's dead upstairs. The other part is that their guest, I think this has something to do with it too. I don't think it was just Lizzie. I think this was a conspiracy. I think it was a total team effort, because the guest that was visiting the night before and into that day was actually her uncle, and he was her mother's brother, not the stepmother, her mother's brother. And I think that he saw the benefit in having Abby and Andrew killed.
And he was staying in the house.
Yes.
The night before, he had come to visit Andrew Borden to discuss business.
Yes.
And it was after they had this discussion in the morning is when he left to go visit family. Yes. And that's when Andrew went out to do his errands.
They were very close friends at one point, and they had a falling out. I think it was like 20 years before this. So
do you feel he did it and then they protected it?
I think that it was the three of them got together, had this plan. I do think that I believe Lizzie actually did it. I think that they all came together to circle around her and cover it up.
What role do you feel that Bridget had?
None.
I think Bridget covered up because she had a few different stories, and she changed her story where Lizzie was in position within the house when they found her. I mean, even the fact that they talked about Andrew coming home, taking off his boots and putting on slippers.
Yep. But he clearly has boots in the photo.
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And another thing I read that I thought was interesting was there's the talk of, well, maybe somebody snuck in the house. The Borden house was originally it was only a single floor. The house was built up by Andrew.
Yeah.
And John, you've been there, so you've seen the layout of this house. So tell me if this is correct. I was reading descriptions where the layout is very odd. Like you have to cut through rooms to get to different rooms.
Correct.
And it's not like a very linear type of construction like we see today. And that was part of the reason where somebody said nobody snuck into the house.
Yes.
They wouldn't have been able to hide.
Yes.
Right. It's very Winchester.
Rooms.
Like a very Winchester vibe to it. It's like, you go up the stairs, where Abby was, you have to go into the girls' room to go to the other room, and then you have to cut through the girls' room to go into the parents' bedroom, which had another room attached to it there. But if they wanted to, they could go up the kitchen way too. So, I mean, the layout is definitely a very strange kind of layout.
Okay. Do you think Bridget had a hand in it?
Yes.
Do I? I
Yeah,
don't
do you?
think that Bridget had a hand in it. I think that there was a lot of I mean, it was very hot that day too, right? She was outside,
She was
busting her
outside
hump,
cleaning the
cleaning the
windows.
windows.
Yeah,
Doing windows.
it's
But
90
see,
degree
that's
day.
the other thing. Abby made her do that during a hot time. So then why would, you know what I mean? I don't think that she did it. And I think that it was just very misleading pieces. Maybe, and I'm just assuming, maybe Emma and Lizzie did wear blue, but one wore one dress, one wore another dress, but they were blue. And she just assumed because Emma wasn't there. Because didn't Emma come back later that day? Weird that she came back that day.
I think they called her to come back because her father was dead.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact that she the other part of it too is that Abby didn't have any defensive wounds, right? So it's not like if a stranger came in, you would think that she would kind of cover herself, right? It must have been somebody she knew.
Right. I agree with that. But, you know, it might have.
Maybe. That would solve all of our issues. But you would think like it's I can see somebody coming in and you're familiar with that person and they suddenly spring out this axe and like she didn't have time to react.
Right.
And that would indicate there was no break-in in the house. There was nothing amiss. Lizzie
the doors, it also would have been difficult to break into the house because previously there had been an incident where the Borden house was robbed. Yeah. So since that time, all of the doors were locked.
The Borden house was robbed by Lizzie the year before.
Yep. And part of the account from Bridget was that when Andrew came home, he was locked out. She had to open the lock and let him back in.
And she said that she heard Lizzie laughing.
On the second
floor. And then they said that if you're on the second floor, there's no way you could not have seen the room where Abby was dead.
Right. That's what I had asked about, like the layout of the house, because it was.
There's no way where that is located. It's here. You come in here. The girls' room was here. There was that, and then the parents' room. You walk through all of that to get to the parents' room. So I don't know if that was something.
But she
maybe she laughed because she knew that someone killed her, and
that's what I'm. Yeah, why would you laugh?
She didn't like her.
Yeah, but still, even if you don't like somebody and they're dead, I don't think you'd laugh if they're dead in front of you.
How do we feel? We have this idea of, was it Emma? Was it Lizzie? Was it them together? We know how deeply connected they were. How do we feel about after they moved and living in this house until they had a major falling out?
They stayed in town.
Yeah.
Because
they went to the...
can't get tried for that crime twice.
They went to the fancy part of town.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And they lived together in that house. Lizzie started going by the name Lizbeth.
Yeah.
Which is the name that is on her grave. And then years later, the two had a falling out. And for two people that had been through that, for two people who had that type of connection, Emma left. Emma never came back. They never saw each other again. And then they ended up dying, coincidentally, 9 days apart.
Yeah.
Yeah. It makes you wonder what...
I think she was the Nellie Olsen of the family. I think she was a spoiled brat.
Oh.
Lizzie.
I think you're the Nellie Olsen of the family. And
I'm the Laura Ingalls. I think she was brat.
Danny's the little girl that fell down the hill.
She was...
Well, she was accused of shoplifting after the murders in, I believe, in New Hampshire.
She was accused of what?
Shoplifting.
Well,
Lizzie.
I'm not negating the fact that she was a kleptomaniac.
But she also, prior to the murders, I think it was just the day prior, she actually told her friend Alice that she was fearful for her father's safety.
Something might happen.
Come on. Come on.
Well, maybe.
And then she wrote a book, If I Had Done It. That's pretty much the story.
You would have done it too. You would have wrote a book. Everybody writes a book.
It was a reference.
Oh, I thought you were talking about something else.
I think I'm straddling the line here because I think one of two things is going to happen. Either Lizzie's going to be really angry and start harassing me now because I'm, but
or maybe I'm Lizzie Borden reincarnated.
I do have,
and that's Emma.
I do have a recreation of Lizzie Borden's dress that she was photographed in that I use on my ghost tour. I will throw that out there.
She does. She does. I find, I don't think that no matter who you negate this with or who you battle all of this with, no matter what it is, there's always a twist and there's always a turn.
There is.
And I find it to be very exciting and stimulating and worth a conversation. Excuse me. I think that it's fun to understand the whole dynamics of it. It sort of fits in with everything in every time period.
It does.
People.
Why do you think everyone is still so into this crime, this murder in particular?
It's so provocative. I mean, it was such a violent crime.
Yeah.
And it was vicious and it was so full of rage and anger. Who else could feel that much? It's sort of like,
do you think that this was premeditated?
I think that it was thought about. Well, I do. I think that the three of them got together and discussed a way that they had to get rid of parents.
I don't think that it was going to be as violent as it ended up because of the rage of it.
Yeah. But I also think that it's also the fact that they there's so much speculation. She was acquitted. Why was she acquitted if there's so much of this bizarre? Because
she showed no emotion during her whole trial.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And to be acquitted, you would have to think that people did feel for her.
I think people had a different notion of women at that time. Well, they definitely did. I mean, they still do. There's like a little bit of an empathy factor that comes into play. Like, oh, she couldn't have done that.
Because she did all of these wonderful things and organizations and Sunday school and all that stuff, could have made people say, you know what?
Well, she also could afford to have the best legal team humanly possible at that time.
She didn't, I don't think, right? Didn't she have some questionable lawyers?
Yeah.
Yes, that's the other one. I mean, that's
going to be on John's Law and Order wall.
Yeah, as I walked in, voguing.
And getting all the answers.
But yeah, getting the answers, ending up at the aliens. Thank God. I just feel like, I don't know. I mean, I hate to sit there and say she did it and then she did. I don't know. I don't think we'll ever really know. I think this is just, I think it's definitely something that is, there are shows that have done these forensic pieces from things like the axe tip. You saw that whole forensic doing it, that the way that it hit, it had to have been this piece. But
Rachel keeps inviting us to London. One day
we're going there. I've done the Jack the Ripper tour.
But one day we're going to end up at Rachel's
spectacular.
house.
I have no clue. I think that's a
good one.
I don't think you'll never know what that is, because I did love the movie From Hell, so I think that plays a very good depiction of things. But in this whole thing, I think the excitement of going to this place because it was Halloween time, and the excitement of being in a location that everybody says it's haunted, it's haunted, it's haunted. And I don't believe that every time you say something, it's haunted, it's haunted. Do it, Darby, and you'll have more fun. Okay. We will. Oh, happy birthday, Darby. It's her birthday
Happy birthday.
the other day, but we're still saying it.
Okay.
I just think it's so exciting. I think it's thrilling to try to be the one to try to crack a case on this, but I don't think it's crackable.
Oh, I don't think it is. I think that there's so much has been done to the evidence throughout the years.
Yeah.
It's over 100 years ago.
Yeah. It's 100.
Yeah.
It's and they didn't have the capabilities that we have now.
Yeah, but if she did it, she got away with it. And she lived in a lap
she
of
flaunted
luxury.
it. If she got away with it, she was like,
yeah,
I beat you all.
But to know that someone was that like calculated with all of this and not show any emotion in this thing to that she lost the father, which also could have made people believe the fact that he was an asshole to us when he collected the money and the rent. Could you picture living with him?
Yeah.
How do you feel about the story of the ring that Lizzie gave her father? Lizzie supposedly, this is Andrew Borden. He is very staunch. He is not any form of showy, decorative. Lizzie gave him a ring when she was a teenager, and it was the only piece of jewelry he ever wore, and he was wearing it when he was killed.
She did it.
You can't negate something because there were rumors that he sexually molested his daughters repeatedly.
There was also rumors that she was having an affair with an actress too.
Correct, but there was also rumors that she was forced into sexual relationship with Emma.
I don't think we could even sit here and name all of the rumors and threads that are tied into this case.
I think
that there was this whole thing, and then
and then he killed her pigeons a couple days before too.
Yeah, I was going to mention that. Yep. So yeah,
that listen, it might be enraged. Maybe she was a spoiled brat, but maybe she just was enraged and she really just needed to. You took the one thing. I mean, she wasn't allowed to marry. She wasn't allowed to have a suitor. Everybody was less than, but then, for his daughter, but then he treated her less than.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, a lot of.
And that's kind of sad. Hi, John Bigger.
But I think that was a common sentiment in that time period. That was not uncommon.
No, and then it also stemmed back even with we're not breaking off from that, but like Salem with the girls. I mean, that was a whole other ball of wax too. Those girls got the attention because no one back then talked to the girls unless pick this up, clean this, do this. They never did this type of, you know what I mean? So, it was, I didn't know that it stemmed that long in that time period that women weren't being started to be respected.
It's only been about 50 years that we've been allowed to have credit cards.
Do you feel that there is anything about do you feel that Andrew Borden, the way he treated his daughters, was affected at all? One thing I did not mention, there was a third Borden sister who died I don't even believe she made it to 2 years old. I believe she was an infant.
Yep, Alice, right?
Alice. Mm-hmm. So do you feel that may have affected the way Andrew Borden interacted with his daughters, and if he regarded his daughters almost in the same way as he regarded his money? I have to keep it. I have to keep it. I have to keep it.
His daughters and his wife. His first wife died too.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that there's a trauma that comes along with that, where you don't want to let go of the people that you care about because you've lost.
But you don't like showing anybody that you have those feelings back then, because there was this, he was a very strong businessman, and that would have shown a weakness, and a weakness is not good in that environment, growing a business from the bottom up. That's my opinion.
Yeah.
So, maybe he didn't realize, maybe he never showed them love. Maybe there was a secret thing that he showed. Maybe it was something different. It was a mind game if those things did take place for people that, coming from a home that I had abuse in my past. I There were times like when you said that something happened and the laughing, I clearly would have thought at that point that I would have left. I
But
would have.
I think that it's so complex, and it's so what's the right word? People were so these girls were so disempowered and disenfranchised that that's what makes me think that it. But I want to know what the judge thinks.
I feel this is something I would have to dive into much deeper before I make any sort of decision. Honestly. But John, I did want to ask you one more thing. Being that that Andrew had that, do you feel that that's the predominant feeling you have in that house, being the haunted space, that it would be Andrew being that oppressive, heavy feeling?
I think that going there is that oppressiveness, but there's also that watchful eye. So I do believe that it's probably both of them, being in their location where they were murdered, where they, you know, I don't think that the location, based off of the way it looks, was a very prestigious looking place at all. So it's not like, did they love it? No, I think that they were two greedy people that did what they needed to do and lived at a level that they'll always would have it.
Yeah.
I don't think that they didn't want, but they didn't want the need to want.
Yes.
If that makes any sense.
Yep.
So I think they were very strict, and they went, and we were only getting 3 or 4 apples. That's it. They never got an extra anything.
And you think about it too, like if Andrew came from a background where he worked his way up and he probably had a lot of he had a lot of money and security growing up. The girls did not grow up that way necessarily, but they were being forced to live that way because that was his mindset.
Mm-hmm.
And the girls that I'm sure that the girls back then, whenever they were like, "Oh, you have so much money and you never have anything. Why is that?" Like I'm
Nellie
sure
Olson.
that played a part in girls were catty. I mean, and like you had said earlier with the nursery run, like Lizzie Borden found an axe, gave her mother 40 wax, gave her.
I
no, I think it's the other way.
No, it was gave her mother 40 wax, and then when she saw what she had done, she gave her father 41.
But that was,
which is not the accurate number, by the way. But anyway,
it's not. Although there were, I really would love to see it done, a different depiction of this. But
Hi, Rachel.
Hi, Rachel.
I think that Elizabeth Montgomery did a great job based off of what was given to the storyline at that point. I do love the Christina Ricci part. I loved it. Loved it.
I didn't see it.
Watch it. It's great. They turned it into a movie, and then it turned into a whole series. I thought it was great. I really did. I don't know why. I like that.
I thought I should love it because it was Lizzie Borden and it was Christina Ricci.
I think the mixture of the music that was set in a more updated time back then, I just loved it. I loved the whole idea. I think that they gave you Lizzie as a really creepy kind of vibe, like, and I don't see Lizzie as anything else but Christina Ricci in this. I thought she was brilliant.
She's brilliant in everything she does, but
I do. If you're out there, Christina,
we love you.
We love you. I think that she's awesome. I think the whole thing, I would love to see a horror movie that really gets down and dirty into it and like really depicts it.
But see
for what it is.
That's another thing that I often come across too with the ghost tour is that I want to keep the stories as authentic as possible, right? I want to, at the same time that I'm telling the stories, I also want to respect that these were people, kind of like our philosophy for being in here. And I get like a little overwhelmed sometimes with the things like all the trigger objects, like
The sugar cookies.
and the crime scene photos in the house. I just it's almost like it's enough that this happened here.
Right.
We have to do the
And I do feel that what
I just got
Genevieve is
dizzy.
saying, if you feel like if they walked away from this and never talked about this again, would that place be haunted? Or is it,
if the ghost is alone in a room, is the room haunted? It's like if the
but
tree
I'm
falls.
just saying, like, is it because there's consistent people that
Yeah.
want to know and they keep berating and asking, are these people really working? That like, I thought
that was
something
weird.
happened.
Something did happen.
What happened?
Your screen just
went, and I'm like, oh, it's over.
Oh, I didn't see that at all on my end.
Weird. We're talking about. Well, sorry, I voted for you. So anyway,
she's coming for me.
But I just feel like, do we leave well enough alone, or do we just do this? Because I think they're really making money off of this, so they're
absolutely.
gonna take it for what it's worth. Like if they turn around and had an axe that was a replica of it in a box that had Lizzie Borden's name forged on it, maybe
bought it.
I probably would have.
If it had rhinestones on it, John would have bought it.
I would have bedazzled the shit out of it. No, I would have. But yeah, I just feel like, we would never know, but we have to respect the fact that there are so many facets to this story.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But I think also it's kind of like the similar concept to how, the ancient Egyptians felt. If the names are still being spoken,
they're still
around. They're still alive. And one of the worst curses that you could ever perform is to stop speaking that person's name. So with this, we might even be having some influence on their afterlife because we're perpetuating the story.
This story will go on way past we are
it already been 130
it's going to go on forever.
Yeah.
And it's going to be a nonstop, relived, revisited story that is always going to happen. And the thing is, it made them immortal.
Yeah.
And for people like us, their legacy is something that it's not a very good legacy. If you weigh it all out and spread it all out, the legacy is there was good and there was bad. Mm-hmm. There was, money, and then there was it was like a dynasty situation going on. But it's also
this did secure their immortality because the Borden girls didn't have any children, so they weren't passing. We don't know about the brother, the alleged brother, but this secures their legacy.
He's wearing a blue dress.
He's coming for you.
But at the end of the day, like we don't realize this, but like our lives, if we're not doing anything, our lives when we go, is anybody going to talk about us when we don't have other people talk about? You know what I mean?
Right now.
I'm just saying.
I will be a ghost haunting the parlor.
I'm going to haunt the Kardashians. That's my thing. I'm haunting the Kardashians.
Oh, okay.
Because they're annoying and they just would irritate the crap out of me. So
but that'll make them
I'm just
more
going to do that.
Because then they will be haunted
by... they won't, because let them try to get rid of me. I'm very stubborn.
Oh my God.
That's it. That's my list.
Yeah.
What is going on?
It's not happening on my screen.
It's like somebody walked in front of it.
Yep.
Scary.
As long as there's no hatchets around.
But I find this fascinating, and I think that we could talk about all this all the time. I think that you could consistently talk this till it's dead in the water.
Yes. It'll never. That's the thing. It'll never be dead in the water.
It'll never be dead.
Never.
Rise. Somebody else will come in with something else and talk about something else. We'll open up a door to continually talk about it, and
it's awesome.
It's very sad. If Lizzie did do it, I feel bad for what caused her to do this. Mm-hmm. If it was Emma, I feel bad for what she went through. If Lizzie's being named in this and she didn't do it, I feel bad for that. I do feel bad for the parents, but I think back then they were cultivated to a point to be the way that they are based off of the area, the money, and how they grew up not
It makes
having.
me think of what were their names? The brothers,
I know what you talk about. The two brothers, the
Eric and Lyle
Menendez.
brothers. That's what it makes me think of.
I feel
Yeah.
bad for those two.
That's a whole other situation.
That's a whole other.
They're still here. We're not touching that one.
Yeah.
That's a whole.
Yeah.
That's a very,
Yeah.
No.
Nope. Anyway.
So what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would
if
love to
everybody's
know.
on here, whoever's
Well,
here.
Jay says guilty. Everyone's guilty on all counts. Apparently, Sarah has transcended her power of the judge role to Jay, and Jay.
I still got the robes and the hammer.
Or Ingen or Mary, or who else is in here? Does anybody else? What are your opinion? Do you believe who did what? Do you have a depiction? Oh, Rachel left. Night, everyone. Left. I truly enjoyed this. Good. I'm glad. John Bigger, are you here with us?
It's like we're talking to a Ouija board.
I mean, you guys, if you post up a picture of Lizzie, invite everybody to give their opinions, because God knows there's thousands of opinions on this.
Yeah. What is your opinion?
I don't feel this was a random person. I do feel this is definitely somebody who knew the family, knew the house. I completely agree that this was not random. There was a motive to this. As far as who was holding the axe, I need to look at things a little more before I can say whether I definitely feel it was Lizzie or not.
She said she was in the barn looking for leads to go fishing.
In her blue party dress.
And she didn't even have fishing equipment. She was looking for little lead things.
Allegedly.
And she was going to go fishing on Monday.
With who? There's a lot.
Yeah, there's a lot.
There's a lot.
I think that people go automatically to the one way instead of really thinking it.
Oh, I thought it through. I got my whole case lined out here. I got alibi. I got motives. I got all the forensics
on that thing.
I got forensics details. I got it all.
It's undecided.
It's undecided.
So, I mean, we could revisit this at a later time.
Well, I would love if people are watching this, if they comment later on, we'll come back and check. Who do you think did it? Jay apparently wears dresses in barns, so he says objection is overruled. There was no objection. He's just throwing legal terms out there, and you may want to check his barn capabilities.
He has dresses. Why are you not sharing?
Yes.
I need parlor dresses. Yeah.
It's great though. It's fascinating.
It was fascinating.
Yeah.
I think it's a good job. So next week on our Parlour.
Next week we've got Stephen Farkas joining us. He's the author who will be here the following week.
Do I say my?
Not yet.
Okay. It is confirmed.
It's confirmed. Okay, so.
But it is confirmed. But
okay.
We just have to give the thing.
So September 10th.
So September 17th.
September 10th is Stephen Farkas.
Yeah.
And now you can announce your other one.
September 17th, we are going to have a very special guest too. It is Katrina Weidman from Portholes to Hell, Paranormal Lockdown, and Paranormal Activity. She is absolutely wonderful. She's just as amazing as everyone that we've had.
Awesome.
She's
can't wait
really
to meet
great
her.
debater. I think she's just.
Let's ask her opinion.
Well, we already asked.
I feel like that's going to be like a recurring. That could be a recurring question. Yes.
But I think that with Becky, she's just in the same line of Becky.
I'm excited.
And I think it's great. Anyway, so we don't want to go. So where are we going to go on our next road trip?
I think we should go to Baltimore and talk about Poe and talk about his.
What is that?
Yeah, that was definitely a footstep in here. But I think we should go to Baltimore. We can talk about the Poe House, talk about the many Poe houses along the eastern seaboard. And
we're going to talk about, at some point, we're going to go to Salem.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you this, I've been going for many years. Sarah's been going for many years. I definitely believe that is a definite 2 to 3 parter.
Oh God.
Parlour team from here to eternity.
Yeah, right?
It's absolutely one of the most interesting pieces of history that still relates today.
Yeah.
For a lot of reasons.
I would love for an episode to also talk about the Merchant House.
Oh,
New
yes,
York.
we can do that.
We can do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, so I guess we'll spin the wheel. What?
What wheel? Do we have a wheel?
What? I don't know. Any wheel. We could kind of run into it. Everything Salem's out for it'll be later on, closer to the end of September, beginning of October. And then it's between the Merchant House and whatever you want to do.
Poe's anniversary is early October, so we might want to do that.
So we'll do the Merchant. We're going to your location.
Okay.
There you go. So you're next. So that would probably be in what? 1, 2, 3 weeks.
Yes.
3 weeks.
24th.
Yep. We're going there. So as always, I know this is something that we all us here enjoy, and it's only our depiction as an individual.
Yes, has
thing.
No reflection
on
the
on
opinions
the
of the Parlour. The other two didn't have any say in this.
Those other two. But I just feel like it's a great experience. This place is a great experience that gives us this outlet to have these kinds of things. And we were just trying to be fun and entertaining about going on a road trip.
Yes.
Because I find it really fascinating. If you want to go look up the Lizzie Borden Bed and Breakfast in Fall River, Massachusetts, and go. I know it has a new owner, but the people are very knowledgeable and very helpful, and they don't really steer it, I guess. Maybe.
You can also rent the entire house.
You can rent the whole house and do it. Yeah. It's a lot of money, so get a bunch of people and do it. It's fun. It's a great experience. It's a slice of history that's not the Civil War, or you're walking through like Gettysburg or whatever.
Crime.
And it's
true
crime. So
everybody loves true crime. Yeah. Well, in the meantime, while we're talking about all that stuff, I just hope that at some point those spirits find some peace.
Yeah, I think that I wish they would find some rest, because they're constantly like, "Are you here?" every night. It's just
that's what I'm saying.
Like,
it might be like maybe they're tagging others in, like, "Hey guys, can you?"
Let's do this. You do it. And I'm out tonight. I can't. I gotta go. But
it's like covering a shift at work.
Yeah. Yeah. No, kidding. Get your blue dress.
You getting the blue dress and showing up in somebody's photo tonight? All right, cool. Thanks.
Thank you.
You gonna show up as an orb? All right, great. Thanks.
All right. Well, thank you guys. Thank you, Sarah.
Thanks,
and
Sarah.
Thank you for joining us. I appreciate it.
And don't forget, put your opinions in the comments.
And
please.
Don't forget to like, share, and follow.
Yes.
Thank you very much.
And come see us at the Parlour, 8 Main Street in Keyport.
Yes. See you next Parlour Tea.
Bye.
Bye. Bye.